I was born in 1953, and so when I was growing up, my strongest early memories are from the early 60s as a child. And at that time, people in the United States were very worried about the possibility of a nuclear attack and nuclear war. So in our schools, we had drills to learn what to do in case there was a nuclear attack. Many people in my neighborhood had built shelters in their basements where they could go after a nuclear attack and presumably be safe. And I clearly remember the Cuban Missile Crisis and seeing the maps in the newspapers that showed how far into the United States the nuclear missiles might reach. And so this was very frightening for a small child. Of course, I think much more frightening for adults as well. I became engaged with issues of nuclear disarmament probably a bit later in my life when I was looking at problems in the United States after we had agreed to stop testing nuclear weapons. There were serious concerns about whether it would be possible to maintain the safety and security of those weapons without testing. And so beginning in the 90s, I was closely engaged with learning about issues of nuclear policy and nuclear disarmament and testing. The CTBT study carried out by the National Research Council was requested by the United States Office of Science and Technology Policy, and it was also supported by the Department of Energy, the State Department, by the Carnegie Corporation, and by the National Research Center. So the request for the study had to do with updating our understanding of the technical issues involved in nuclear monitoring and nuclear security. The National Research Council had done a study 10 years earlier, and so policymakers wanted to know what had changed in the intervening 10 years. So we were asked specifically 4 questions. The first question was, what was the status of the U.S.'s capability of maintaining its nuclear stockpile safely and securely in the absence of nuclear testing? The second question was, what was the status of the world's ability to monitor for nuclear tests, especially those that might be carried out evasively? And then the third question was, what commitments did we as a society have to make to be able to maintain the security and stability of our monitoring system? And finally, the fourth question was, what sorts of nuclear threats might be avoided by putting in place, by maintaining the nuclear weapons test ban? So those 4 issues were the 4 issues that we were specifically asked to address, and specifically in the context of what has changed in the last 10 or 15 years. This was one of the most pleasant and outstanding parts of the work that we saw. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when the first report was made, the monitoring system under the CTBTO was notional. It had been planned, but nothing was in place. And what we've seen in the past 10 years is amazing progress. We see the system has been set up to 80% completion. It has achieved truly outstanding ability to monitor, in fact, much beyond the specifications and the capabilities that might have been possible in 1990. So we now see that it's possible with the CTBTO to monitor worldwide with better than 1 kiloton sensitivity for a normal nuclear test underground. The quality of the data gathered by the CTBTO is judged as very high quality. We see both the type of data that was possible 10 years ago, which is teleseismic data, and the new developments in regional seismic imaging, which allows us to understand much better the signatures of the explosion or the event that we see, and be better able to distinguish nuclear events from things like earthquakes or mining explosions. We believe this package is extremely reliable. The national technical means, of course, allows individual countries to monitor in addition to the CTBTO and look at points of interest that are of specific concern to them. So in combination, any country can use its own networks of sensing and monitoring in combination with the CTBTO and get extremely fine coverage. So we judged it as a very good combination with the CTBTO adding a lot of value to what the United States has in terms of its national technical needs. In doing the report, we were specifically asked to address technical issues, and our goal in doing the report was to provide clarity and understanding in the technical issues so that policymakers could be very clear and have the information that they needed to make decisions. And so as we were writing the report, one of the things we were most concerned about was not to allow our own conclusions, deductions, personal preferences to enter into the report. So we had many long discussions to make sure that we had kind of cleansed the report of personal opinion and kept it on a very clear, sound technical level. The report was released, and we believe it was well received. We've had over 100 newspaper articles, which are generally favorable in terms of describing the report. We've heard feedback from scientists who are very pleased by the quality and depth of the technical information. And again, we're hoping that as policymakers engage with more discussions about the CTBT, that they will be using the report extensively to help them with their discussions. During the previous debate in 1999, when the United States last discussed ratification of the treaty, there was a great deal of confusion about technical issues, and it really clouded the debate and made it very difficult for people to understand because there were many conflicting points of view. So we hope that with this report, where we have tried very, very hard to bring clarity to the issues, that a future debate can take place with more clarity on the technical issues, less confusion, and allow people to concentrate on really what the political issues are and shape their decisions properly.